for another modding video here for Farming Simulator 19. I'm going to call this the basics here of modding. We're just going to go over kind of the different files, how the XML works to some extent here. Not going to be real in-depth. We're just going to kind of go over, like I said, the basics here. So, for starters, we're looking at a mod here. We got the John Deere 2510 mod I've done. Obviously, mods are contained within a zip file. Zip files contain all the other files, folders, whatever is needed for the mod. Then looking inside the John Deere 2510 zip folder here, we got a couple of files that are, you could say, are important here. We got the mod descript file. The mod descript is responsible for loading up the main XML files for the mod, plus any additional content that might be needed. Lua scripts, stuff like that. We'll go over that here in just a moment with a couple other mods I have open here as well. So if you were to open up the mod script, there's not a whole lot to it. It basically, author of the mod, version of the mod, tells you where the icon for the mod is. So when you activate your mod, this is the icon that is loaded for activating on the activation screen. And that is this icon right here, of course. So that's where that is. Let's see what's here. We got the title of the mod, John Deere 2510. We got a description, a whole bunch of stuff there. Multiplayer supported true. And then down here, store item. This is where it tells you, okay, this mod here is loading up this XML. So John Deere, the JD 2520 XML also tells you what kind of vehicle it is, stuff like that. So that's what the purpose of the mod script for. It's basically just a loader for the mod itself. That's what I'm going to call it here, essentially. So let's go ahead and close that. So yes, the mod script is calling up the JD 2520 main XML. This is actually the XML that controls the mod. You think about this way, you got, actually let's go back to the folder here. You got two main parts of a mod here. You got the i3D file. The i3D file contains the 3D shape of the mod. It's the 3D-ness of the mod. The XML controls that 3D shape. It tells the game where the tires are, and like if you got selections, like you want cab on and off, weights on and off, it tells the game how much the the thing is supposed to weigh, brand names, so all that good stuff. So the XML controls the i3D file and tells the game essentially what to do with it. Again, weights, tires, anything and everything. Motor configurations, of course, another big one here. Cameras. Everything is in the XML here, essentially, for that. And then this XML references the i3D. So main XML here for the mod, again, starting up top. You got, name of the mod, power of the mod, functions. This stuff up here pretty much stays the same. Don't change that a whole lot, depending on what you're working on. Brand name, John Deere. That should be all capitalized, by the way. Category, what category this falls in. So tractor's small, type description, type tractor, file name here. This is the file name. This is where the XML is calling up the i3D file. So JD2520 is calling up that i3D file. And this i3D file, by the way, it's basically two files. You got the i3D file itself, and then you got the shapes file that goes with the i3D file. Hopefully that kind of makes sense there. Then you got the components of the mod. And in order for that, let's open up the 2520 so this will make a sense here. This John Deere 2520 is split into two components. You got component 1 here. That's majority of the mod here in this case. And then you got a front axle. Because the front axle can pivot, that is why it is a separate component. And you'll probably see that like in articulated tractors. You'll see the front of the tractor is a separate component from the rear of the tractor. That's how that's set up. And then you got down here joint. The joint is simply telling, okay, join component 1 with component 2 at this node. And this node here is the 012 node here. So that's basically telling, okay, take component 1, take component 2, and this is where they join, 012. So if we were to go into the XML, or the i3D here, and if you find 012, which is probably that one right there, yes. Index path is 012. There's the index path. So that's what that is referencing there. Then you got your rotation limit, because again, that front axle can pivot, right? So that's the purpose of that. 15 degrees there. The schema overlay, that's your icons up in the top left corner. We got some design configurations there. We got some vehicle type configurations. Obviously, you can probably tell what they're doing. We got a configuration set. Configuration sets are a little bit interesting here. This configuration set is, let's see, once here, what, fill, oh, it's for fill units. Okay. So yes, this configuration set is for the fill units, which will, once we get down a little lower in the model, look at that. We got front loader configurations here for turning that on and off. If you're familiar with XML, it's fairly straightforward. XML is fairly simple. Now, getting on to the wheels. That's always a big section of the mod usually, depending on how many different wheel configurations you have in a mod. Now, this particular mod here, if you open this up, everyone, you see, hey, whoa, there's no tires in here. Where's the tires? That's because the XML is actually dynamically loading the tires. If you look at this XML here, file name. The file name here, the wheels are coming from narrow front XML. So that's where the tires are coming from. And that's actually an XML file. It's not even the i3D file here yet. So going off on another tangent here, everyone. Wheels, we open up the wheels here. It's loading up the narrow front XML. That narrow front XML then is loading up the i3D file that actually contains the wheels. So if you notice here, wheels i3D, and then node is 50 and 50 for that tire that's being loaded. So if you open up this i3D here a moment, and if we find 5050 in there, that'll tell you what tire is being loaded. So 50, nope, that's 4, 5. So 50. That's actually not 0 yet. There's 50. So there's 50. That's the tire that is being loaded. That one right there. So that's that tire. Okay, back to the main XML here, which apparently I must have closed that one, didn't I? Okay, let's open that back up. So that's where the tires are coming from. They are being dynamically loaded from another XML file, and that XML file is then dynamically loading, or well, not dynamically, it's loading up the i3D file that contains the actual tires. Let's see once here. What else do we got here? More tires, more tires. Ackerman steering, that controls the steering of your mod. In this case, it only has one steering index, so apparently all these tire configurations use one. You can have multiple of these, by the way. So you could have, let's say if we just were to copy this, you could have more than one of these like this. That is perfectly acceptable. And then usually you probably won't see it in this mod because it's not using it, but you'd see it calling up Ackerman index number 2 or Ackerman steering number 2. So indicating it would be the second one. So if maybe depending on your configuration, maybe you don't want it to turn as tight with that configuration. That's how you do that. So max rotate with this one is 44. It's quite the rotation there. Let's see once here. Hubs, attacher joints. Got all the different attacher joints here. The first one is the 3-point. You got your trailer attacher, trailer low. Again, kind of the European stuff there. You got your power takeoffs, attacher joint indices. This, by the way, this tells you, okay, for attacher joints 1, 2, and 3, that is what the PTO is valid for. For example, maybe if you had a front attacher, you wouldn't want your PTO on your front going all the way to the rear, right? So that's where, that would be what would be valid for. So it's like, okay, 1, 2, and 4 maybe or something. So that when it says indices here, this is 1, this is 2, and this is 3. And there's only 3 attachers on this tractor, by the way. Lights. Oh, yes. Lights are always a fun thing here for 19, it seems like. First off, starting up top, you got the states. This is the number of time when you push the button. So if you push the button 3 times on this mod, you'll cycle through all 3 light modes. So, and when you first press the button, it turns on all the lights that are number 0. So if you notice here, that turns on that light. And it looks like it turns on that one and that one. Well, these aren't actually lights down here. These are just the light. The back end, the reflector of the light. That's what those are. So yeah, that basically turns on that light there. Now, when you press the button again, it turns on 0 and 1. So it turns on that one and that one. And then it would turn on the reflector down there. And then when you do number 2, it would turn on all the lights, which I guess that one, and this one. These are turn lights down here, so that wouldn't count. But that would turn on those 3 lights. The default lights here, that is like your reflector. So the visually, when you see the light turn on, makes the visual light itself turn on. You got sounds associated with that. Enter bowl. This tells you like, oh, exit point for the mod here. Now, when you're looking at these nodes here, everyone, nodes, you look 0, 3. That is referencing a spot in the i3D. So if you go to the i3D here and you look for 0, 3, that's your index path over here, by the way. So on the right-hand side, index path, you see this one's 0, 12. You want to find 0, 3. And just because it's named, you can find it pretty easily here, right? So 03, there's 03. You could, let's say maybe you wanted, well, that probably wouldn't be a good example with that one there, but let's say you wanted to make the steering one there where you want it exit, you would just change it to 07. You probably wouldn't advise doing that with this mod here because that transform location is not probably a really good spot to exit the vehicle, but if you were to zoom out here, get this in a little bit better view, you can see there's the exit point. The exit point is kind of hopefully outside of that tire there and away from the tractor a little bit. Not too far away, but just a little bit a ways away from the tractor. And of course, you can move this around too, you know. You can put the exit point way over there if you wanted to. So make sure we undo that. Don't want to save that accidentally. That probably would not be good. Enter reference. No, that's, yeah, just telling you the tractor. They're 0. That is this, by the way. So 0 is right there. This is number 1. And just a note on an error message here as well. Something you'll sometimes see, like, you know, more than one, I forget exactly how the error message goes, but you'll see a error message saying, you know, extra components have been loaded that aren't referenced, essentially. That's because, let's say if I were to throw a light in here, let's do create light. Notice it puts a light down here. This light is not being referenced by the XML, and that will throw an error message. So you got your first component, you got your second component. What the heck is that? The game doesn't know what to do with that. So that will throw an error message if you see. And if you watch my modding videos, you understand. You'll see that messages a lot in my in my modding because I like to throw some extra lights in there. But then, of course, you know, make sure once we release it, we get rid of those lights so they don't throw that error message. Cameras, you got cameras here. Actually, you know what? There's 2 sets of cameras here, and that's rather interesting. I'm not sure why that is. That must have accidentally copied that twice for some reason. Just happened to notice that. Motorized here, we got our motor configurations. You got your fill units. Just diesel on this one. Yep, just diesel. Some of them you have the def and stuff like that on them, right? But so you got your motor configurations here. First motor configuration is the 2510 horsepower 55. Just a note here. You know, let's say you put a ridiculously big number in there, but that does not change the horsepower of this tractor in any way, shape, or form. That horsepower there is simply just a number. The game reads that and tells you, okay, it's 55 horse. The game does not actually use that for that much horsepower. So, you know, someone goes in here, oh, I'm going to crank up this horsepower, you know, look at all that horsepower. Yeah, that changes absolutely nothing, everyone. Nothing changes when you change that. Price for that configuration, by the way, so if you go down to the next one, 2510 diesel, that's another $500. In fact, looks like they're all $500 more. Okay, that probably was a slight oversight on my part. Oh well. Let's see what's here. Torque scale. Torque scale is what actually controls the horsepower of your piece of equipment, your tractor. So if you want to bump up the torque scale, you know, put a 1 in the front there, and you'll have a massive amount of torque. Massive amount. I don't think you usually see this number over much. 2, 3, 4, maybe 2 or 3 probably is about the highest I think I've seen it. Doesn't go much higher than that. Minimum RPM, maximum RPM, max forward speed, max backward speed, brake force. You know, if the brakes on your equipment isn't real good, you know, crank that up a little bit. Then you got your torque scales. So at, you know, this RPM, you get this much torque. At that much, you get that much, you know, so on and so forth. Pretty straightforward there if you ask me. And then also under here, you got object change nodes. Let's talk about object change nodes here a moment. Object change is what will change the mod for certain configurations. In this case, we're turning on the decal for the 2510, which is going to be 09260. So if we go find 09, which I think is going to be under here, right? 0926. There's 20. Yeah, 26. And it's probably that one right there, right? So this object change node is telling the i3D to set node 09260 visibility to true. So if you select the 2510 horsepower size tractor here, it will turn on a visibility, which is checked right here, by the way, and there's your logo visible. So that's how that object change nodes work. And there's some different ones that are available depending on what you want to do. You can move stuff around in the mod. You can, yeah, there's all kinds of different stuff you can do with that. So just FYI there, that's what the object change is for. You can, you know, have visibility active false. So, you know, turn something off, turn something on. Differential configurations, exhaust configurations, also hopefully fairly straightforward. You know, there's your exhaust node. Again, the node here links to a spot in the i3D. And then you got a file name here. This is data. So this is telling you where it is pulling that exhaust effect from. So that's where it's just coming from in-game here. Then RPM color, you can change the color of exhaust, stuff like that. You know, make it a little more blacker, I guess, if you wanted to. So, you know, make it blacker. You'd probably change this 9 to like a 1 and probably black. Haven't toyed with that a whole lot myself, but essentially I believe that is how that works. Exhaust flap, motor start duration, how long it takes the tractor to start. Sounds for this tractor. Yes, this tractor actually sounds like a Fiat 1300 DT in the game, which, you know, seems fairly accurate for what I would say 2510 in real life kind of sort of sounds like. Let's see what's a drivable steering wheel. Okay, yeah, steering wheel. This tells the, again, the game, okay, your steering wheel node is this, so 0700 is where the steering wheel is located. And if you're inside, meaning you're in the tractor, in the inside camera tractor view, the wheel will have 540 degrees of rotation. If you're outdoors, it just has 50, right? So that's how that works. And that steering wheel, I don't know if I can click on here or not. No, of course not. Where was that steering wheel? That is under 0700, huh? Okay. Steering. Yes, there it is. So is that the one? Nope, we got to go one deeper here yet. Steering is that one. Notice, by the way, here with the steering wheel, just a little more on the modding here. Notice the location of the transform location here. The transform location is centered on the wheel. That is rather important because you probably want your wheel to go around the center. You don't want that transform location somewhere else. So, you know, if you rotate this green one here, notice that wheel spins round and round and round. Just like that. Again, probably better not to save that. That would be bad. So that's where you want your transform location because that's what it's going to rotate that wheel around. So if that's not in the right spot, yeah, fun things could happen. Very fun things. Cylinder and moving tools. This is for the 3-point. I think that's all for the... Oh, no, not all of it's for the 3-point. This is also for the front steering here as well. Some of this is for the steering. Then a lot of it is also for the 3-point. So telling, okay, you know, lift arms are going up and down, that type of thing. Got where your hydraulics connect here. So you got hydraulics in and out here. You got a total of 4 of them on the back of this tractor. I don't know if you can quite see that down there. There's one, and there's the other one right there. So that is that. Fuel unit configurations here. This is what I was talking about earlier with the configuration units. So the fill unit actually isn't changing here, but we're using this as a sneaky way to change something else. And I forget what this is changing again. I have to go back up there and look, but that's basically just another fill unit configuration there. Wearable, that's your duration for wash and dirt. There's those numbers right there. Honk, AI collision trigger, foliage bending modifier. Don't quite fully understand that. It's basically when you're driving through something, you know, the grass bends out of the way. That's essentially what that is. Yeah, just numbers there pretty much. Like I said, I don't fully understand how those numbers work. I haven't taken the time to try to understand it either. I mean, it looks like it's fairly straightforward. So you just, you know, okay, this wide by that long, right? Let's see. Anything else worth noting in here? Oh, yes. Let's look at this right here. Okay, so character node here. You notice we got a node 0600. But then down here, everyone, actually, you know what? This is not a good choice. I was thinking this was something else. Right foot. No, we need... This might not be a good one, actually, to do this with. I might have to go look at another mod. Let's see. What's their color? Nope. What I'm looking for here. I don't have any... I don't think i3D mapping is on in this one, is there? No, there's no i3D mapping. Okay. What we need, everyone, is to go look at a mod that has some i3D mapping. So let's look that up here a moment. Again, notice with this mod here, the 2510, everyone, it's got numbers. If we go to, let's see what's here, 568, that might not be a good one. Let me go to probably, let's see what's here. What would be a good one here? How about, oh, it's probably in my, that's where it is. Yeah, games. Let's see what's here. We need to go to the mod folder, mods 3. Let's look at the John Deere, or not the John Deere, the Case 9380. Go to here, and let's scroll down here just a little bit. You're going to notice names. So there's kind of 2 different ways you can do this. You can use the names. Yeah, here's a good one. So object change node, you got a name in here. Rather than a node number, there's a name. Which, if we were to open up the i3D file for this one, we could find that name in there somewhere. There's one step that is required for this, though. If you're using names, you have to have what's known as i3D mapping. That tells the XML, it tells the game essentially that, okay, this name is linked to this node. So if you notice down here, this is a whole section of mapping. So all these names map to these numbers. Now, why don't you just put the numbers in there? Wouldn't it be easier just to, then you don't have to have this all down here? Well, when you're working on a mod, sometimes some of this stuff can get shifted around. You're moving this here, moving that there. And then next thing you know, everyone, you got to redo your XML because your XML is all screwed up because, well, you moved this from that node to that node. Now this node is that one and that one's that one. And yeah, everything gets really messed up. So, you know, where the steering wheel was under 070, now it's maybe under 090. Rather than having to go back through the XML and, okay, you got to fix this, fix that, you can simply remap the i3D, copy that code down below, and be done with it. You know, something that would take a couple of seconds as opposed to potentially a couple of hours of having to, you know, redo your entire XML because something got moved around in it. You deleted something, added something, and yeah, hopefully that makes sense there. Okay, real quick here before we wrap that up. Hopefully that's all making sense to everyone. Like I said, I'm not going into real depth here, just kind of covering hopefully some of the basics. Under here, looking at the John Deere 568, like I said, the mod descript, it loads up the mod essentially. Now with this one here, it's loading up the baler right there. But then this baler also has bale types in it. So again, the mod descript is responsible for loading additional files that might be needed for the mod. In this case, bales. So that's that one. And then if we look at, I think this one back here, yeah, the case Steiger, this is another good one. Again, the mod descript is responsible for loading up the main mod. But in this case, there is more than one mod inside of this mod, if that makes sense. Inside of this one here, you have the tractor itself, which is that one there probably. And then you also have tanks and a blade. So inside of the mod descript here, it's going to load up, so store items, you have it loading up the Steiger, the tanks, and the blade. And then also, you know, any additional specializations. Oh yeah, so this is loading up some additional Lua files here. So snowplow Lua and add config Lua. Yeah, that's something for adding additional configurations if you run out of the available in-game ones, by the way. Let's see what's your vehicle type. Yep, specializations there. Lever, brands, new configurations. Yep, okay. L10. You'll see this quite commonly. At least we used to see this quite commonly in mods. Missing L10 configurations. So this mod apparently is using that. Let's go back to probably would be a good one under this one here. Let's see what's here. Do they have this in here somewhere? Let's see if I can find this here real quick a minute. Got to be in here somewhere because it looks like they're using it. I would assume anyway. Unless they just put that in there for the fun of it, which would seem a little odd. Let's see. There's got to be some configurations in here. Where's the configs? Besides the wheel configs. Because it looks like they're not using it for the wheel configs. Let's see what's a rim configuration. Speed, rotating parts. Oh, yeah, that's another good one there. You know, so if you got parts you want to animate, there's all kinds of additional code. Like I said, I'm not going to really go into that one. If you really want to know, like, okay, how do I do this? Go look at an in-game piece of equipment. Look at its XML. And it should be fairly straightforward to figure out how Giants is doing it. Okay, where are they using these L10s? I'm not seeing them. Interesting. Well, okay, I did see it at the top here. This is technically in-game, but this is what you'd see here. L10 type description tractor. This would link, and this one's not going to because this is an in-game one, but if this was not an in-game one, this would have to link to your mod descript file, which would be this, and then that's where you would find that configuration. So type L10 configuration weight. And then you'd have the name of this, you know, can have multiple languages. Usually that's the purpose of that. You know, if you don't have multiple languages in a mod, you really don't need to use the L10. If you're just using English, just put the English over here. That's kind of how that's done. But like I said, if you got multiple languages, that is the reason for that. That way you don't have to have that stored here. You have that stored here. Okay, so I think that's going to do it for this video, everyone. You folks have any comments or questions? Hopefully that kind of gives you a basic overview. Again, the different files here that are required, how the XML links to the i3D, basically by those node numbers, or if you're using i3D mapping, by the names of something. So again, if you're using the name here, you could just grab the name, make sure you have the i3D mapping. So, you know, if you wanted to grab the component name here, John Deere, you could grab that name. And then in the XML, make sure you have the i3D mapping set up. And there's an i3D mapping tool, by the way. So you just run the tool. and it maps that and tells you can pretty much copy paste that down to your XML there, so you don't have to like manually put that in there. Don't worry about that. It's automatically done, right? So this name would link to that. So you can use either one. Just a lot of times if you're using the name, especially if you're doing a mod, new, building it, it's a lot easier to use the name. Let's see what's your wheels, textures, right? I don't think there's really a whole lot else to note there. So yeah, again, folks have any comments or questions about this, be sure to leave them down below. And as always, thanks for watching, and till next time.